Can I thank each and every one of you for coming here this morning and for hopefully being part of the process that will take New South Wales into a new era in planning. Now, we have the next 18 months is the aim for period. We're hoping to produce legislation within 18 months, and that's a mighty challenge, a very mighty challenge. And in that challenge, we will have a number of people who will be leading the way, but we're looking for participation right across the board. I think you probably would acknowledge that the planning system in New South Wales is not doing a particularly good job. It has a clear outcome in the sense that we have the lowest housing starts in 50 years. You would have seen the report just in the last week that indicated where we sit now with regard to other states in economic terms, and it's not a good place to be. And that comes after a number of years of amendments to the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act. It's not just the Act, I've got to say. I think there's other aspects that we need to address in terms of the culture that operates within government departments, that perhaps the understanding that the community has about the importance of moving forward as a state. We need to address all those issues over the next 18 months. But this morning is the start of that process. I have on my right here a number of people, and I'll just quickly go through them, who are going to form the panel this morning. And I want to thank each one of them for being prepared to take part in this first historic step this morning. Councillor Alan Ezzi, Mr Stephen Alban, Mr Tony McNamara, Mr John Lightfoot, Mr Pepe Clark, Patricia Forsyth, you'll note, is the only woman on the front stage here. She's just acknowledged that. She said she wished she was wearing bright clothes to point that out. I'm sure Patricia will hear and know you're there anyway, that's fine. And Tim Moore, who will be the joint chair as we move forward over the next 18 months, along with Ron Dyer, who couldn't be here today but will be here shortly to take part in the process. Not today, but over the next few weeks. We do face a mighty challenge. We need to get the balance right in terms of planning. We need to safeguard our environment, but also make sure that we have a planning system that is capable of addressing the needs of the 21st century for New South Wales. As I said earlier, the former government have made a number of amendments over the last 16 years, and each time, albeit that if we impute the best of intent, it hasn't actually quite worked out that way. The 1997 amendments that came on the back of a backlog of 60,000 development applications. That was under Craig Knowles, and some of you would remember effectively the merging of the BA-DA process and the front loading of the processes. Actually saw us go from 60,000 backlog to 120,000 the following year. We've had the 2005 amendment, the infamous Part 3A, which perhaps in other circumstances may have worked, but particularly in the environment where it was connected with a public or a donation system that perhaps saw some negative consequences for that. Part 3A became utterly unacceptable, and you would know that the new government moved very quickly to remove Part 3A. And we have made various amendments that have produced changes that hopefully will address some of those concerns across the community of New South Wales. We then had the 2008 amendments, where there were the introduction of the Planning Assessment Commission, the Joint Regional Planning Panels, and whilst we did have some concerns about that, and we've moved to make some changes, we've taken a minimalist approach at this point because we want this review to have its head, in a sense, be able to move forward without too many changes taking place. The planning system, I think, also suffers from constant change, and we need to get a system where people feel, well, look, this is at least what it is for the next 18 months or so while this review takes place. I would ask you, please, to be as fulsome as you can be during this morning's discussions and deliberations. One of the issues that Sam Hazzard and I, no, seriously, Sam, the Director General, and I, in our first meeting, I said to him that there had to be a clear understanding that the Department of Planning was not the font of all wisdom, nor was the state government, and there needed to be a true partnership with local government particularly, and the community, and particularly those who have earnest desires to protect our communities and environment, but also those who know that this state has to move forward with its economy enhanced, and that to do that we need to get our planning system simplified, relevant and capable of actually pushing our state back to where it should be. It was number one in this country 20 years ago. The new government wants it back as number one again. Can I say one of the other things that I've indicated to the Director-General is that whatever we do in this process over the next 18 months, and there will be lots of public discussion, green paper, white paper and so on, draft bill, plenty of opportunities for discussion, I would like, as the Minister, to see a system that is operational in an IT framework. I don't want to see a planning framework put together in a vacuum and then try and fit it into an IT framework. We are in the 21st century. It is critical for us that no matter where you are in this great state, whether you are somebody who wants to provide housing or whether you are somebody who wants to protect the community, to protect the environment, you should be capable of actually hitting a few buttons on a computer and knowing exactly what is intended for that particular parcel of land and what can and can't be done with it. And so from the word go, there will be IT involvement to make sure that as we progress forward, we have an IT-friendly system, a user-friendly system at the end of this 18-month process. Now, I agree, I acknowledge 18 months is a mighty challenge to change a planning system. There are people who are sitting in this room who have sat in my office over the last 4 years and said to me, Brad, you don't have a hope of actually getting a planning system up in anything less than 4 years. And they remind me that, yes, and I can see a few faces there that have actually done that, and it said to me that, and reminded me that when the Environmental Planning and Assessment Act came in, it was really a 5-year process, and it was complex and it was difficult. I acknowledge all that, but this state cannot wait 4 or 5 years. So I ask you to join us today on this great journey, but it will be a journey that has to have energy, commitment, and a journey that will actually see us fired up to get a new planning system within 18 months in this state and to make our system the system that the rest of the country looks to. And I would certainly ask for your involvement and your nurturing and encouragement of all of the people who are on this panel this morning, but also particularly our joint chairpersons, Tim Moore and Ron Dyer, and the expert panel that will be established as we proceed. There will be an expert panel and there will be a consultation process, particularly around those organisations that have profound involvement in the planning process. But those issues are to be sorted out. You can certainly make comment about how you think that should happen today, because that's part and parcel of it. At this point, the only thing that's locked in is the time frame, the fact that we must have new legislation that must address those issues I was just talking about. But Tim Moore and Ron Dyer will put that framework together that will make sure that we have the maximum consultation and the best outcomes. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming out on this wet day. Thank you for making it your way through the 2 foot of water out there. I blame the planning department for that flood out there. I'm sure it was all their fault, Sam.
Council.
Oh, council. Okay. Well, okay. Haven't heard that one in the last 110 days. But thank you again, and let's see how we go this morning. Thanks very much.